Many Americans in the Southeast are still cleaning up from Hurricane Helene, and they're wondering what's next. While President Biden was touring the damage over the last 2 days, some survivors are telling Fox that they feel abandoned by the government.
A little forgotten area for us. There's probably about maybe 100 homes that are damaged on the Catawba River here on part of Lake Wylie and Mountain Island Lake.
And basically there's major damage in this small area, and we just feel like we're being forgotten. We haven't received any response from FEMA.
We are also hearing from Republicans who say that a lot of the money that FEMA should be spending on disaster relief, in their view, should have been spent on just that, as opposed to working on the migrant crisis. The latest numbers we have on how much FEMA has been spending on that crisis. We're also hearing from Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, who insists the government needs more money for a potential future storm.
We are meeting the immediate needs with the money that we have. We are expecting another hurricane hitting. We do not have the funds. FEMA does not have the funds to make it through the season.
Today, former President Trump, he'll also be touring the disaster zone, meeting with Georgia's Governor Brian Kemp. And there is a lot of concern about what the rest of hurricane season could bring as it goes until the end of November.
I love the bat signal. Good. Fantastic. A sign of hope for you and for me, ladies and gentlemen. For all of us, this country needs America first now more than ever. Today's show, we are going to spend time with General Flynn, with members of Congress, with people on the ground in North Carolina, Georgia, and affected hurricane regions. We are going to shine a light, because the rest of the corporate media refuses to do so, on the disasters that have been created by our government, by the bureaucrats, the indifferent, seething demons who wish to let a part of the country descend into chaos, to allow people to die, to let hundreds of bodies lay in waste so that they can potentially rig an election once again in their favor. It is one of the most despicable and egregious scandals, potentially the worst scandal in American history. It is unfolding right now. The government has done nothing to help. Instead, they continue to hand out unlimited credit cards to criminal aliens that they flew in to small towns to do the same thing. Rig the American electorate against you and me. It's sick. It is the worst crime, and in a righteous country, Kamala Harris would be losing in a 45-state landslide on election. We're going to do our best on this program to illuminate exactly what is happening inside of these disaster regions, why it is happening, why the military hasn't been called in, why federal assistance is non-existent, and what that means when it comes to an actual worldview. America first versus America last. Today is Friday, October 4th, 2024. Kamala Harris and Joe Biden continue to botch Hurricane Helene responses. America first delivered. Elon Musk will be attending Trump's Butler rally tomorrow. And ladies and gentlemen, so will we. More on that in a moment. General Michael Flynn and Nickstor will be joining us on the ground live in Asheville, North Carolina. My name is Benny Johnson, and this is The Benny Show. Allegiance Gold keeps this program sound. It is something that allows us to run and to go into battle, quite frankly, to head off whenever we feel like we have to cover something because the corporate media is refusing to show you. Whenever we have an opportunity to help out those in North Carolina, like we have been doing all week, and we'll cover this in just a moment, sending helicopter load after helicopter load of generators, water, diapers, baby formula, anything that they say we need, this show has brought to them this week. Ladies and gentlemen, the reason why we can do this is because we are smart with our investments. We are smart with what treasure God has given us, and we wish to do what God asked, which is to give to those in need. ladies and gentlemen, gold is a smart investment. You should invest in gold. Gold is the highest performing commodity on the market. And well, the last couple of years have proven anything. It's that as the dollar becomes worth less, things like gold are going to become worth more. Go to protectwithbenny.com today. Call 844-66-BENNY. Protectwithbenny.com today. 844-66-BENNY. Right now, get $5,000 in free silver with a qualifying purchase. All right, ladies and gentlemen. I want to begin with a video that will, and I hate doing anger and outrage. I don't like it. Sometimes you have to do anger and outrage. I don't like it. It's bad for the soul. And I don't like you're never going to find on this program week after week me sitting there screaming and crying and declaring that the country's over and we have nothing to fight for. What kind of motivation is that? We are silver linings on this program, but there are some days that require you to actually understand what's at stake here. Here's what's at stake. I'm going to lay this out as plainly as I possibly can. According to a study from Yale that was released earlier this year, there's 22 million criminal aliens currently living in America. And we say criminal aliens. Some of them are criminals. But we say that because by the very nature of the way that America's laws are written, when you enter this country illegally and you stay without having express permission and citizenship granted, which the vast majority of them do not have, then you are a felon by our laws, by the Immigration Act of 1964. We've read it. It's been ratified. Joe Biden has ratified it, among with many others. That means that those people are criminals. So those criminals, by the very nature of them being here illegally, what is to become of them? Well, the sole express purpose and the express platform of the Democrat Party is to naturalize those people as quickly as possible, and they're working to do that right now, to use your tax dollars to bring as many more of them into the country as they possibly can, into the interior of the country, to do so through an app called a CBP One app. You heard this talked about a couple of days ago in the election, where with a click of a button, without any vetting at all, with a click of a button, you can be flown directly into Springfield, Ohio, or into small towns of Pennsylvania, to naturalize those citizens as swiftly as possible, full citizenship rights, full voting rights, full welfare rights, knowing that first-generation immigrants, because it is hard to subsist in a country that has out-of-control rampant inflation and prices skyrocketing, those people will vote for Democrats who are much more willing to open up taxpayer doles and welfare rolls for a government dependency. 9 out of 10 newly naturalized immigrants vote Democrat. The 2020 election and the 2016 election were decided by less than 100,000 votes. 22 million new voting citizens, 9 out of 10 of them voting Democrat. Elections that are decided by 100,000 votes. You do the math. What the Democrats have done on the backs of the American taxpayers is to cruelly and illegally bring forward a permanent Democrat majority into this country if we allow it. This is the plan. It's been the plan, and they're out front with it now. Now it's become clear. Democrats do not like Native Americans. They do not want Native Americans to have political power, financial power, cultural power. Native Americans like you and me, people who were born here, we have these old-timey desires to speak freely, believe in the Constitution, fundamental rights, Second Amendment. We've been raised here in this tradition, a tradition fought for by your grandparents, seemingly, all of our grandparents, depending on how far your family lineage goes back in this country, your grandparents, all of them fighting wars so that you and I can be raised in a culture and a tradition of the government not censoring us to death, not imprisoning their political rivals, the government not spending our country into absolute insolvency and bankruptcy. That's what happens in South America and all around the world. That's the norm. Our government wishes to do that. Therefore, they import people from those parts of the world because it won't be a problem for them. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the plan. And that is how Democrats are able to cruelly and with absolute seething hatred for the people who live here, because that doesn't make the country a better place. It doesn't help the job market. It doesn't help the unemployment markets. It does not help the bottom line of the American welfare rolls or dependency. Every one of these individuals is currently, right now, getting Social Security. And so when your checks dry up into a system that you've been paying into your entire life, what happens next? And why? Why does it go bankrupt? The way these systems, these Ponzi schemes go bankrupt is you have a bunch of people that never paid in taking from the pot. And you have that now to the tunes of tens of millions all across the country. And guess what? When they get voting rights, they're going to vote for more. And the Democrat Party will be happy to give it to them as long as they subserviently pledge total fealty to the Democrat Party. And that's what's at play here. That is the map. Nothing is more important than that operation. That's why Trump must be stopped. That's why they screamed like demons over Trump's billion-dollar wall. What did Trump want for the wall? $2 billion? We spend that in like an hour in Ukraine. Nancy Pelosi screamed like a demon that was being exorcised by a Catholic priest over Donald Trump wanting $2 billion for the wall, saying it's too expensive. No, it's not too expensive. It was against the plan. The plan is to have a new class of Americans, a permanent underclass of Americans that have total and complete fealty to the state, cannot operate without absolute and total American dependency upon the state. That is why they're perfectly happy to rip people out of their support zones, out of their countries, and bring them here. It's very hard to immigrate into a nation, just do so, like in the dark of night. You know nothing, you have nothing. And here's the trick. If you're going to get those people activated to vote for you, you better start handing out goodies immediately. Here's a clip that's going to enrage you. Keep in mind right now that I just got off the phone with a emergency worker in Asheville, North Carolina, who says that there are going to be hundreds of dead bodies found in mudslides, who said that the extent of the damage is the worst natural disaster that any place in America has ever suffered. That the people there will never be made whole again because their towns no longer exist. It is the equivalent, this aid worker said, who happens to be a veteran, to what we would do to towns in Iraq when we wanted to wipe them off the map. When the American military wanted to rid Earth's surface of a terrorist compound, this is what they would do to them. There's no coming back. There's no coming back for these areas. Kamala Harris has cruelly offered $750 to those people who lost everything and perhaps lost their lives. It will take months, according to my sources on the ground, for all of the bodies to be found. There will be bodies rotting in the hills and in the landslides and in the mudslides for months. They will be pulling Americans out. The military hasn't been activated. The 82nd Airborne runs out of North Carolina. The 82nd Airborne stationed in North Carolina. They were activated immediately for Katrina, but not for this. Like Katrina, George W. Bush, it took him 3 days to get down to Katrina, and that ended his presidency forever. Why? Well, because they needed New Orleans on an electoral map. And so the media was activated like ravenous pit bulls, vipers, to savagely attack and to make this a crippling issue. Ladies and gentlemen, these are red states, and these are red districts. What's been affected are the people that Democrats do not wish to vote, do not wish to have the capacity to get to a polling location. These are swing states that are decided by the thinnest of margins in Georgia and North Carolina. And Democrats will be happy to have power outages through the election. My source on the ground said that they have seen one FEMA truck, one one FEMA truck, and that there are thousands stranded, thousands without the capacity to reach the outside world, without power, internet, without food, supplies, this program is doing everything that we possibly can right now in our capacity. Maybe that capacity will change next week. Everything we can in our capacity right now to airlift every single day, water, supplies, everything that we hear is requested, we send. It's all we can do at this point. What is happening right now is an equivalent to a cultural cleansing. It is a crime. It is effectively a political and war crime. The cruelty of our federal government. Alejandro Mayorkas saying he doesn't have any more money. They spent it all. Sorry, we have no money for Americans whose ancestors died to give us this place, yours probably too, who actually built this nation. Good-hearted people who live inside of one of the very few pockets where America still exists in Appalachia. Like good old-timey America. Banjo, sitting on your front porch, campfire America. Like the America on the postcard from like the 1950s, that still lives in Appalachia. They are happy to have that wiped off the map. They want, like a good Marxist, they want no trace of it any longer. Put it up. Mayorkas warns FEMA doesn't have enough funding to last through hurricane season. FEMA, the organization that is designed to help you and me out if a horrible disaster strikes us. And by the way, this hurricane hit my house too. We lost power for days. We were offline on the show for days. Okay, you could say this hurricane financially affected all of us. There was flooding all around the studio. Multiple members of our team had to flee town because they were in mandatory evacuation zones where the government says they will not help you. This is what FEMA is for. FEMA should be going in and recompensating members of the community that I know who lost their homes, who lost everything. I was with one yesterday. Lost their homes. The role of FEMA should be to go in and to help out, like our friend Forgiato, who lost his entire house. He lived closer to the ocean than I do here in Tampa, in a place called St. Petersburg. He lost his home, and FEMA should be there to go in and save him. What has FEMA been doing instead? Well, let's go ahead to an interview with a criminal alien on the streets of Manhattan and listen to what their lives are like as they have been flown or welcomed into this country by the administration on the backs of the American taxpayers while using the FEMA dollars that were meant for these styles of disasters. So as Americans die in the mudslides, as Americans suffocate and die and watch their entire lives get wiped from the earth in mudslides, please listen to the lifestyles of the criminal alien.
¿Y por cuánto tiempo han estado quedándose aquí en el Rojo Hotel?
Desde que yo llegué, julio,
¿Cuántos meses es eso?
como 7 meses.
¿Y han tenido que pagar alojamiento?
No, nada, no he pagado nada.
Es 100% gratis.
Sí, sí.
¿Y le dan almuerzo, desayuno?
Sí, sí le dan cosas del niño, personales, nos dan pañales, lo que necesiten ellos.
¿Y ahí en el hotel hacen limpieza de las cuartos?
Sí, hacen. Sí, todos los días hacen limpieza, cambian las sábanas, hacen aseo.
¿Todos los días hacen eso?
Sí, todos los días.
¿Han poder conseguir trabajo ustedes?
No.
Yo no. Si ustedes tuvieran un problema de medicina, ¿cómo podrían recibir ayuda con eso?
Bueno, con una tarjeta, la del seguro de Medicare.
Y la MetroPlus. Nosotros tenemos la MetroPlus y eso nos abarca el seguro que nosotros necesitamos para los niños y también nosotros nos beneficiamos de eso.
¿Se sintieron apoyados gracias a nuestro presidente Joe Biden?
Bueno, sí. Sí, porque si no estamos trabajando ni nada, él es el que nos está ayudando prácticamente.
I don't like doing outrage, and I'll tell you when you should be outraged. Most of what's happened over this past year has been so comically clownish buffoonish and stupid that the best you can do is really just chuckle at it and laugh at these ass clowns who run this country. Even President Trump, according to Don Jr. and Eric, who've been on the program, found the opportunity to laugh and joke about his first assassination attempt. Something we don't intend on doing, but this is the way that the president treated it, according to his two sons. Okay. I'll tell you when to be outraged. That clip. That clip. You should be outraged. Now's your time. This is your time to be outraged. This is your moment. Don't be angry at those two women. Those two women are victims of human trafficking. What I mean by that is government trafficking from our government into America. They took, I have no idea who those women are or where they're from. They're Spanish speaking, so you can just assume origin. They took these two women who have no connections to America, who don't speak our language, who have no money, who are totally impoverished, and have dependents. They brought them to America. They paid for their diapers, their food, their rent, their Medicaid, their Medicare. Those women have never invested a penny in Medicaid and Medicare. They paid for their flights, presumably. How the hell else would they get to New York? You can't row a boat to New York from South America. This is an indefinite payment. There's no way that those women could ever afford a hotel room in New York City, downtown Manhattan, like $500 to $1,000 a night. That's something that's they'll never be able to do it. We are paying for it. And at the exact same time that Mayorkas is groveling that FEMA has no money because they've spent it all, as you just saw, as you just witnessed in an on-the-street interview at 10 a.m. in the morning in the light of day, two criminal aliens saying, yeah, the government pays for literally every need. All of our children, our diapers, our food, our hotel, medical care, Medicaid, our passes to get on the metro. We're just riding around New York. You could never afford to go to New York. I could never afford to go to New York for a family trip. You know how expensive that city is? Criminal aliens are getting like a free pass. Everything's free. All of it's been paid for by you and me. You know what? The reason I can't afford to go to New York, I couldn't afford to bring my kids to New York. I got a daughter named Eloise. There's a book called Eloise at the Plaza. I'd love to take my daughter to New York, but not in the cards because of that. Our federal government has chosen them over you. Our federal government has left you to die in whatever small, inconsequential town that you come from because you are a Trump voter, because you support MAGA, because you are America first. You are inconvenient to them and their political agendas, and therefore you deserve nothing short of death. And that's been the stance of this administration. This is what we've sent. Here are our supplies. Here's a helicopter and the piles of supplies that we've sent. We've sent one every single day. We've sent much bigger planes too. Do we have those? We've sent much larger planes than this. So every day the need grows. And so we've sent bigger and bigger planes. So this is what we're doing while the government is taking care of the criminal aliens. That soon-to-be Democrat voter there says, wow, Joe Biden's been great for me. What did Joe Biden say just yesterday about the hurricane? He didn't even know that it had happened. In a clip that is unspeakable, Joe Biden at the White House shrugs his shoulders and says, what storm? Here we go.
What do the states in the storm zone need, Mr. President? Okay. What do the states in the storm zone, what do they need after what you saw today?
Oh, in the storm zone?
Yes, sir.
I'm wondering what storm they're talking about. They're getting everything they need. And they're very happy across the board.
They're getting everything they need, says Joe Biden. Well, okay. That's what Joe Biden says. Along with what storm? What? What are you talking about? Again, hundreds of bodies are going to be found for months. They're very happy, Joe Biden says. All right. Well, it's an obligation of our show to say, all right, let's go check. Are they as happy as the criminal aliens? Living like kings and queens off the taxpayer dole? People who do not share the traditions of this nation? People who presumably are not here and would not have come here through the tough asylum process or naturally immigrate without these expedited systems? People who have been mainlined into the country by this administration to break our systems and give permanent majorities to Democrats? People who are deeply ungrateful. You can see it in their actions, in the actions of criminal gangs all over the country. Ungrateful for this place. See this place as a place to be raped and pillaged. And that is demonstrable through their actions. Let's go check in with the people of North Carolina, shall we? Let's see if they're as happy as the criminal aliens that you and I are all supporting with full rent, Medicaid, Medicare, baby supplies, food in downtown Manhattan.
We're not getting the amount of support that we need.
We haven't seen FEMA. We haven't seen Red Cross. We haven't seen Hearts with Hands. We've seen no agencies come through here. Most people drive through with their cameras out, filming us like we're animals in a zoo, and don't stop.
How could the government do us like this? And how could the whole country just forget about us? Like, it's not enough. What is being done is not enough. I mean, there are entire communities that have been just decimated. Where is our government? I mean, for Kamala, and I am an avid supporter for her to stand in Florida today and make a statement. Where is our government?
So Kamala supporters are out saying this. If you vote for Kamala Harris, you hate America. Clip it. Put it up. Kamala HQ. There's your clip. If you vote for Kamala Harris this election, you hate America. There's no other explanation. I'm sorry. We're here. We've come here now. The harsh truth is that in the aftermath of this hurricane, the greatest, most devastating failure of the federal government and bureaucratic elites has taken place simply because they hate the people who live in these counties. These counties predominantly vote red. They're Trump-supporting counties. If this were happening in blue counties, if this were happening in Katrina or in Raleigh, you'd have an Iraq-level invasion of federal resources. They'd be treated like the criminal aliens. But it's happening in Trump counties, so they're leaving these people to die. Let's go ahead and check in with Asheville residents on the response. Ladies and gentlemen, Asheville residents saying it's too late. And as soon as this clip plays, ladies and gentlemen, we will go live to Asheville to hear from one of the best reporters on earth about what's actually happening on the ground. Here we go.
You lost any family or friends?
I lost one friend. His name was Canaan. His body was missing. Where he lived, he was homeless for a while, and then he boarded up alongside the river with another homeless person. And I would help him out when I could, and then they went missing, and then they found him.
I'm sorry. How have you felt the response has been so far?
It's too late. I mean, they took too long. It took them 5 days to get here. And I mean, it took 5 days for Biden to come here, and he didn't think we were worth coming down to see us himself. He had to fly over on his way to Raleigh. It's disgraceful. I mean, they keep saying we the people. No, there is no we the people. It's them versus us. So they're not for us. It's all about them. They tell us what we need instead of listening to us.
ladies and gentlemen, joining us now live is the great Nickstor in Asheville, North Carolina. Nick is, of course, going to be on what looks like a mobile device. Nick, can you hear us?
I can hear you loud and clear. I'm sorry. We're kind of in the middle of a disaster zone out here, so it's a little bit difficult to be stable. And you're probably going to hear a lot of background noise, but, man, there's people working at this point. But you don't see any government employees, though. I'll tell you that. I'll tell you right now, Benny. I mean, that guy is spot on. I mean, I haven't seen a single FEMA truck. I haven't seen a single FEMA employee. I don't know where these people are. They keep saying, every time I post about it, I get yelled at. Well, Joe Biden says that he signed a disaster declaration. It's like, what is that? Okay, he signed a piece of paper. What does that mean? Because the video that you're showing right there on the screen, this is us. This is what we were doing. We came here. We reconnected first responders, and the first day that we came here, I took my personal Starlink, the one that I'm using right now to actually do this broadcast, and I gave it to the first responders at the hotel that they were staying at, because even they couldn't connect. Their FirstNet, they're supposed to have like priority when it comes to cell phone connections and such, and even that didn't work. And the state and the federal government were doing nothing to help mitigate that issue. And so I'm telling you right now, lives were lost. This cost lives just because they didn't want to deploy these Starlinks in the beginning. They didn't want to give Elon Musk any sort of the credit. And I genuinely believe that. The last thing Joe Biden and the Democrat governor here in North Carolina wanted to do was give Elon Musk the credit for reconnecting the people out here. And it cost innocent lives, Benny.
This is a level of government cruelty that I didn't even know our government was capable of. And I think this is blackpilling a lot of people. Are they still finding bodies there, Nick?
Yeah, absolutely. They're still finding bodies here. And we don't actually know the real count for multiple reasons. First of all, they don't want you to know the real count. And secondly, some of the places that are still recovering bodies as well that are, way out in the mountains, they still don't have any sort of connectivity. The radios don't work. And so, when we were sitting up there in some of these small mountain towns, you have all of these police officers that are, as we're convoying to get there, they're trying to get as close to our car as possible so that they can use my Starlink that's sitting in the dashboard so that they can communicate with each other. I mean, this is a joke of a response. And, I don't even know what we're paying taxes for at this point, Benny. It's like, this seems to be the most basic responsibility that government is supposed to have is in, situations like this. But they're nowhere to be found. It's like they wouldn't be here if it weren't for us calling them out on X, because when I first got here, the mainstream media wasn't even talking about the fact that half the town of Asheville was gone or that, pretty much the entire region was off the grid. They didn't care. They only started caring when we started calling them out on X and saying, the outrage that came when I showed, proof that first responders didn't have any communication. They're standing all around, 10 of them at a time using Starlink at a hotel because, they weren't allowed to have any.
So as we witness some of the firsthand interviews in Asheville and in Western North Carolina, we hear people say that the government has abandoned me and I'm a Kamala voter and they've given us nothing. They've done nothing. They've activated nothing. The 82nd Airborne is based out of North Carolina and no one has done anything for these people. Is this what you've seen on the ground? And second part of the question, have you seen any government help at all? Any government assistance at all?
So what I'm going to tell you is, so part of Asheville is, you can look at a map of the entire western portion of North Carolina, and you're going to see that Asheville is the only blue dot within that entire western region. And so a lot of the people that you meet in Asheville are Kamala voters or do support Joe Biden, and they absolutely do feel abandoned. I was surprised at the reaction, actually, that I was getting out of them, where it's like they finally woke up and were like, wow, these people do actually hate us. It's like they are not on our side. Especially, even the guy that was on there, that's exactly the type of language that I've been hearing. And the place that I'm staying is it's in a very liberal area, like the most liberal area. Pretty much everybody there that works there is liberal. They know who I am. They know what I'm posting, and they're on my side. They've become like really close friends with me at this point because, you know, they're backing this. They want it called out. And, you know, Kamala saying that she's going to give $750. That $750, you know, I don't know if you remember, Benny, but when we were on Maui, we did this reporting from Maui as well. When they got $700, that only went to people that lost their houses. It didn't go to like people that are, you know, that lost their cars, or, you know, their houses were damaged, or they lost their jobs and such because of the economic disaster that's now going on here. That is for a very small amount of people. And there are a lot of people that are asking me now, like, they're like, what do I do? Like, do I move out of the town? Like, you know, are we going to get tourism back here? Because, you know, some of the big tourist spots are gone. Those people aren't going to get any assistance at all. They can't even apply for it right now because of the fact that they don't know whether or not their house is still there. They can't get there. So they can't tell FEMA that they lost their house because they can't even get there. They don't know if it's there or not. So they're just suffering. I mean, they're living on, you know, whatever was in their checking accounts at the time. That's it. That's all they got.
So they are impoverishing these people, not helping them, and then leaving them effectively to die. Our sources say that they'll be pulling bodies out of the mud for months, and that the death toll will be closer to 1,000. Right now, it's in the 200 range. Is that what you're seeing on the ground?
I 100% agree with that assessment. It seems at this point that they are not prioritizing recovering bodies at this point. We're 7 days in, Benny, and we are in a search and rescue mode still. They still haven't been able to search all of the areas because we don't have the assets here. We still don't have the manpower to come and you know, look, we should have the manpower here. As you were talking about, I believe it was the 18th Airborne, you know, not 82nd too far
Airborne,
away.
Yeah, out of Fort Bragg.
Far away from him. How come we can have, you know, the Tennessee National Guard? I don't know if you heard this story where they actually they deployed to Kuwait. So Eastern Tennessee was hard hit as well, and they didn't delay that deployment. They could have delayed that deployment. The disaster happened 2 days before they ended up deploying at the behest of the Kamala Biden regime. And they went ahead and sent them anyway. And so they still don't have any water over there. They don't have enough people to complete search and rescue. That's why you have private individuals doing these search and rescue missions, because you can't, you know, the government's just not here. You don't see the federal government very much. You see, you know, why don't we send in, you know, we have a massive military, right? Not even just National Guard troops. We have, you know, actual troops. Why aren't they here? Why
they went to Katrina.
Flooded with them.
They were deployed to Katrina. We went and looked through the Getty archives last night. It was like there's a ton of photos of the 82nd Airborne and the American military in Katrina assisting. But those are Democrat voters, which I guess is my next question to you. This is an overwhelmingly Trump supporting area of the country. These are swing counties in a swing state. And the Machiavellian take on all of this is that they don't want these people to vote. And they don't want these people to be able to be functional. They want chaos and disaster and dependency on this population ahead of an election that's going to be decided by razor-thin margins. Do you see that? I mean, do you sense any of that on the ground?
Yeah, and so I've had a lot of people asking me, like, hey, you know, people that have been displaced, people that have lost their houses and stuff, they're terrified that they're not even going to be able to vote, and that this election is going to be taken from them based on that, right? If they're not allowed back in their towns, if they don't have a mailing address, so they can't like do a mail-in ballot, they're stuck and they're lost, and they're not getting any assistance from the federal government to move things along quicker. You know, the state government can only handle so much here, man. I mean, it's not the federal government has a hell of a lot more disaster-related assets than the state government is ever going to have. You have other states that are coming in here: Vermont search and rescue, Maine search and rescue. I mean, states as far away from. I have seen more presence here from Texas and Florida than even North Carolina, but definitely more than the feds. It's crazy. But if you were to bring in those assets, they would be able to speed things up here. But it's almost like they're intentionally slow walking it. And I can't help but notice that. And people here are starting to really sound the alarm on that too, because it's like, it's either criminal stupidity or they're doing it intentionally. Those are the only two options here.
Well, you began this, Nick, by saying that they refuse to give Elon Musk any credit when he's the one saving lives right now.
Yep.
And this, of course, then must be colored politically. If you are going to deny life-saving equipment and technology from one of the most sophisticated and accomplished individuals of our time just because you don't agree with their politics, well, then you're just criminally dismissive and wishing death upon your fellow Americans for political purposes, which is the best that we, the best that we can assume here. And I want to ask you this question because you're one of the few people that would actually be able to talk about it authoritatively. Many say, and my contention here is that it's so close to the election that they really don't want these people to vote. That's what I believe. I do truly believe that. However, there's a greater pattern here. There's not a ton of Trump supporting Republicans in Lahaina in Maui, and they were perfectly happy to let those people burn alive. In fact, the federal government told them to stay in their homes as they burned. And the only ones who survived were the ones who just disobeyed the federal government. You were one of the only reporters in the country that went there and truly embedded there. Can you talk about the similarities between the Maui fires and disaster and what you're seeing today in Asheville?
Yeah, and so it's the same sort of, at a minimum, there's a massive cover-up going on out here. That's at a very minimum, and that was true on Maui as well, where they don't want, it doesn't matter at that point. They're never going to lose, and I'll say this very genuinely here. They are never going to lose Hawaii. They're never going to lose Maui. The Democrats will always have them. They have them in a stranglehold, and they know that. So they really don't care about them. They just don't. But the PR, the bad PR that comes out of that for the regime, that's what they're worried about. That's what they truly don't want to come out. They don't want it to be exposed that this is a hugely mismanaged disaster, and that the death count's going to go way, way up. They don't want it to show that that individuals like myself and some other organizations are the ones that are reconnecting emergency operations centers. How is the government not doing that? I mean, you look at all the helicopters, all the privately owned helicopters that are dropping off supplies. We've been working with them. I've been handing them off Starlinks, and they've been airdropping them in some of these areas where they're still, even to this day, are disconnected. They still haven't regained any connection. FEMA says that they're handing out Starlinks, Benny. I haven't found a single one, not one. And funny enough, Joe Biden tweeted, Joe, one of his handlers tweeted yesterday, talking about how he had reconnected North Carolina here, a small town north of Asheville. And I got an angry text message from the fire chief of North Canton saying, calling Joe Biden a jackass and saying he's lying again. You set it up. You and your Wonder team set it up, and they're lying about it. They're taking credit for it, and he is pissed. He is absolutely pissed because, the federal government, FEMA, and the Biden-Kamala regime are taking credit for what us private citizens are doing out here. It's shameful. And, I'm not out here for credit, man. That's not what I'm doing out here. I haven't tweeted much over the past few days because I've been focused on what's going on the ground. Okay, it's not about the credit, but it's all about the credit for the Biden-Kamala regime. That's all they care about. All they care about. They don't care about you. They don't care about me. They don't care about anybody here, regardless of how they vote. It's all about their image.
Nick, what is the biggest lie that the administration has told the subservient press corps at the White House? Perhaps you saw yesterday, Joe Biden said, "What storm?" I'm sure perhaps you saw that when you were back at your hotel room. What storm, Joe Biden said. He didn't even know what they were talking about. Kamala Harris up with $750 for people that won't even pay a month of rent. What is the biggest lie that you've seen from the regime since you've been on the ground here?
Saying that they have no more resources to give. That's BS. Utter BS. What resources are here? I don't see them. They're not here. So how do you not have any more resources to give? Where are they? Where are they? I know they're spending, they've spent over the past couple of years, $2 billion on illegals out of the FEMA budget. But I don't understand. It's like the power of the federal government. But there's no reason that Joe Biden can't deploy federal troops here. You know, I don't understand that there's such a shortage of manpower, Benny. You have no idea. I can't express to you how light the presence of any government is here. The vast majority of people that aren't, you know, directly from these local small towns here are private search and rescue groups, private relief groups. I don't know what FEMA does at this point besides just be a PR arm for the regime, because that's pretty much all they're doing. They're all talk, no action. And people see that of all walks of life, left and right. So the biggest lie is that they're doing everything they can and they have no more resources to give. That's BS. Absolute BS. You know it. I know it. Everybody knows it.
I just want to get this one more time. You have seen no federal assistance. You've been on the ground for a week. Is that correct?
Yeah, I've been on the ground for a week. The only, so there's a, so you have, in terms of federal assistance, the most that I've seen in, and I don't exactly know who's operating some of the Chinooks that are here. I believe they're National Guard, but there are not federal troops that are on the ground here. They're just not here. You have, and honestly, you don't see very many National Guard troops either. But I do know that they are operating, you know, especially Florida. Florida's National Guard brought a decent amount of assets, but not nearly enough. I mean, they don't have a full army, right? So, but when it comes to FEMA, I haven't seen a single FEMA asset, not even one time. And I have traveled thousands of miles here over the past 7 days, and you know, through small towns everywhere. Not seen a single FEMA asset. No FEMA aid to any of these guys. And I pretty much ask them every time I get to a fire station. I talk to the fire chief, because I don't just drop the Starlinks and leave. I actually set them up and help them use them. And so I get the opportunity to talk to them a little bit. And they're all pissed off at the same thing. They're not getting any help. Not getting any help from FEMA or the federal government, and not really any from the state government either. But, you know, out of the federal government, that's what I expect them to do. That's what I expect their role to be.
Nick, this show will be happy to cover the expense of as many Starlings as you want. So you just let us know. The chat right now is begging, how can they help you? I want to give you a chance to close. What's the best way to help Nick? Obviously, follow him. We'll put up your X account. What else, my friend?
I mean, there's a Cash App and a Venmo in my X bio, but other than that, I haven't been. I don't have like a Give, Send, Go or anything. I've been more focused on the ground effort out here. But yeah, I mean, I think so. They're there. I think Venmo is like at NSORTOR. That's the one I know off the top of my head. But
okay,
you know, I appreciate everything, guys. I really do.
This is Nick's profile right here. You can see there, Nickstor, 550,000 followers. You can see there in the link tree where you could potentially help Nick, or if you just want to help him, follow him. Make sure that Nick gets to 1 million subs so he can tell the world what's really happening. We need to grow our capacity to engage in the information war. And Nick is one of the greatest mercenaries of that war. God bless you, sir.
Thank you very much, Benny. Appreciate you.
Ladies and gentlemen, you know, sometimes you just hit it right when it comes to booking. Nick is there begging for the National Guard, begging for the American military. It is our absolute honor to welcome on the perfect guest to talk about where the hell is the National Guard? Where is the American military? The great General Michael Flynn joins the program live now. General, thank you so much for making the time for us today. Big questions that we have that can only be answered by someone with your pedigree. Yeah. Where is the American military as Americans are suffering and dying? I'll preface this by saying our sources on the ground tell us that there are hundreds of bodies, American bodies, still buried in mudslides, and thousands of Americans that could potentially perish still in this storm. Where is the American military?
Yeah. So a couple of things that I want to cover. And Nick Sortor is unbelievable, and being on the ground there and doing what he's doing. I mean, talk about courage. So let me take it to the big picture first, because and then I will take it down to North Carolina and what should be done, what should immediately be done, and we're already a week too late. So big picture, we have over 100 counties, probably around 150 counties, from Apalachicola, Florida, all the way up to the Appalachian Mountains of Western North Carolina. So probably looking at 150 counties, you know, in various states that are in a complete disaster zone. And so this is a federal emergency of epic proportions, of biblical proportions, that the federal government is basically has been totally absent. Okay. I mean, absent. And I have folks that I'm working with right now, and I'll talk a little bit about what we did in North Carolina, what's going on in North Carolina, because people out around the country are, frankly, some around the world are asking where they can help, but certainly people around the country. So the big picture is we got about at least 150 counties that are in a total disaster zone, from northern Florida all the way up to in parts of Tennessee and, of course, North Carolina. In North Carolina, there's over 1,000 dead that have been confirmed to me, with just the body bags that have been filled. There are insufficient numbers of body bags, so there are dead bodies lying aside, and this is mainly up in North Carolina, that is already pushing over 1,000. My guess is that by the time we look at all of what has happened, we're going to be probably somewhere around 2,000 or north of 2,000 dead people. There are still people caught up in the hills of North Carolina and eastern Tennessee that their towns were completely wiped out. They're totally isolated. Homes are gone. And one of the things I want people to understand is that one of the things that you consider for humanitarian disaster recovery and relief operations, one of the first things you look at is the terrain and the weather conditions that are impending, right? So at nighttime right now up in the mountains of North Carolina, I'm very familiar with this area. I've trained up in there. I've been up in there many times in my experiences in the military, especially at Fort Bragg, North Carolina. I won't call it the other name, but Fort Bragg, North Carolina, which I will talk to in a second here with the potential deployment of other resources that the government has. So the weather conditions right now are wet. They are, because it's misty at nighttime, it rains at night. We're looking at weather temperatures that are in the low 30s. And in another week or two, certainly by the end of this month, we're going to start to see freezing conditions, possibly even an early snow in the mountains of North Carolina, where these people are still walking around with nothing. So because I want to talk about what types of resources need to be brought to bear and the things that I know that are being done. So the big picture is we're going to probably be north of 2,000 dead. We have at least 150 counties, maybe 200 counties from northern Florida all the way up into western North Carolina that are in this disaster zone. The federal government has done nothing. One other strategic component here, Benny, and for your audience, when they talk about FEMA's out of money or the federal government's out of money, first of all, it's our money. So never forget that, folks. Secondly, our government has disaster recovery response funds, and Congress, and now I'm talking directly to Speaker Johnson, right? Congress can reallocate funds. So funds that are being allocated overseas to some other crazy endeavor that we don't need to be part of, they can reallocate funds with one simple vote. And actually, it's the Speaker of the House that can do that. So I don't want people to go, well, FEMA's out of money, the government's out. No, first of all, it's our money. And the Speaker of the House has the authority to be able to reallocate from one line item to another line item, especially for disaster recovery in the United States of America. And the President of the United States can do it with a stroke. It doesn't even take a pen. It could just be direct these funds to go to that effort immediately. The second thing is the President of the United States has the full authority to call out and federalize the National Guard, okay? And we probably are looking at a division's worth of capabilities that we need. So an Army division's worth of capabilities. So that's roughly somewhere between 15 and 20,000 personnel from that we can get from the National Guard right now, with all of the logistics, all of the communications, all of the tonnage, all of the what they call mobile kitchen trailers. I mean, for food. I mean, we can do water purification. The little numbers that have been sent, I think it's 1,000 from the Fort Bragg area, and there's like another 500. This is just in North Carolina. We need a full mobilization right now, and I'm serious about this. If you sprinkled fairy dust on me today and put me in charge, we would have an entire active duty division, because the active duty division, more than the National Guard has to come in. They got to go through all kinds of processes. They don't respond as quickly. So the 82nd Airborne Division, which is a 3-hour drive from the western hills of North Carolina drive, not like, a day or two to get there. They have capabilities that can be there literally in 2 hours, 4 hours, 24 hours. And I'm talking about large packages of the full complement of everything that Nick was just talking about. I have representatives on the ground doing a couple of things. One, they're collecting the intel right now. They're getting an assessment of the area. And these are the guys that are telling me how many body bags they're out of, how many body bags they need. There's still areas that they have not gotten into. I mean, some of the stories that I was told in the last couple of days, these were fixed, and I'll tell you how they were fixed. So we had North Carolina Forestry Service helicopters at Hickory Airfield in North Carolina that were sitting idle for 5 days. And the pilots who know that part of the country like the back of their hands were so frustrated because they were directed basically, don't do anything. Okay. They would call up and go, hey, these guys are looking for help here, and we can help them. We know this area very well, because flying in the mountains with a helicopter is far more difficult than flying, along a beach, right? Because you're up at a higher altitude. So there's a lot of dynamics and technical issues here that people have to be aware of. So these guys were sitting idle. One phone call, and it was to the Lieutenant Governor, Mark Robinson. And I'm going to give him a lot of cred right now, because in that phone call, he told me that nobody was answering their phones from the governor's office of North Carolina. Nobody was answering their phones from his calls to the Department of Homeland Security, or he was calling up into the White House. So Mark took it on his own, went to the airfield yesterday afternoon and directed under his authority. And I don't know what that means. I don't know if he has that versus the governor, but he told those helicopters, and they said, thank you very much. And they put those helicopters into service. They were sitting there, Benny, for 5 days. So there's so many stories of incompetence and ineptitude and intentionality. FEMA has a small element on the ground, and people that are going up to it, there's no signs. So it's not like, hey, FEMA's here. We're here to help. We got supplies coming in. We got relief efforts going on. They were told, basically don't address anybody that comes up. If they come up, just tell them you're sitting tight and you're waiting on resources. This was this morning. This is this morning, a FEMA operation that's a little bit further away from Hickory, up in the greater Asheville area. So that's kind of some of the tactical picture. But we have the ability immediately, and I mean immediately, with the phone call by the President of the United States directing the National Command Authority, and that means the Department of Defense, the Secretary of Defense, the Department of Homeland Security, FEMA, and some of these other federal institutions to mobilize, and they should put it under the command and control of a military unit, because this is a military recovery and disaster relief operation. I've been part of many of these. This is a very simple operation, actually, in the military, because these are Americans, right? Our soldiers, and I have too many stories in the last couple of days of soldiers at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, taking leave because many of them live up there, or other guys know people up there. So they're taking their own leave to get out there and help out for a couple of days to just do some immediate operations, because they can't take that much leave, right? A couple of days, 7 days. And so units are letting them go. So low-level soldiers our rank and file understand the urgency. They're watching this unravel, and they're looking at our government go and say and do nothing. I mean, nothing. This is so outrageous. We have, and what Nick was talking about, and you guys kind of touched on it in the end, you kind of say to yourself, why? And so, what are they doing? Right? And you have to say to yourself, $750, that's ridiculous. I mean, everybody knows. Everybody looks at this and goes, what the hell is going on? And what's going on is, and I said this very publicly this morning on my X post, I want people to understand, when they say build back better, they need to destroy the entire system in order to build it back better in their image. And I mean that intentionally. I mean that precisely. These people are intent on destroying this country. So there are also stories. This just makes me sick, and good reporting from good people on the ground that I know of the looting and a lot of gunshot fire, a lot of gun fights up there to get rid of looters by some of the locals and by some of the recovery assets. There are also children that they're finding with ropes on their arms and their legs where they were tied to trees by their parents, and their parents are now dead. And the kids were able to get recovered. There are reports of illegals up in that area, and there's a group of illegals that they had, basically grabbed up about 3 or 4 days ago. And, these are the allegations of raping some of these children up there. So this is brutal, and this is a war zone. And in a war zone, and this is what I mean about this sort of disaster zone, it's like a war zone. You showed many of the pictures, Benny. So when you have a war zone like that, you're going to have all sorts of nefarious characters, actors. You're going to have people up there with all kinds of, hey, if you support me, if you support this, and they're going to be benefiting from it. We got to be very, very careful about who we're supporting, where your money's going, and the type of people that are up in this area, because you're going to have, it's such a gigantic area of operations. The only way right now for a legitimate, well done, well executed recovery operation to take place is if the United States government commits at least a brigade-sized task force, which is about 7,000 to 8,000, men and women, soldiers with all of the requisite capabilities to get in there now. This is even outside the scope of the National Guard. It's such a big problem. And that doesn't mean that doesn't take any away from the National Guard leadership. They can get a general up there who's got some guts and is ready to make some decisions. But the scale and scope of this problem, like I said, we're talking about so many counties in North Carolina, but we're looking at a much, much bigger problem. And so the larger the problem, the bigger the resources that you're going to require. And those resources, because we're talking about interstate problems here, it has to come from the federal government. And for the federal government to say we're out of money is total bullshit. It's total bullshit. Excuse my Irish, Benny, to your audience. There are funds that are available. The President of the United States can redirect them. Speaker Johnson needs to stand up right now. And also he's got the authority to move monies from one account to another in order to support this operation. And then our Congress, our House, they should be so public right now in the public domain, demanding that the President of the United States help these people. Benny, we're going to have over 2,000 Americans dead from a hurricane that was never expected to go up into the western hills of North Carolina. And I said, the people that have died and will be recovered, bodies from northern Florida all the way up to the hills of western or eastern Tennessee and western North Carolina. Benny, there are entire segments of I-40, and I've seen the videos and the pictures. I-40, which is a major federal highway that cuts right through, the entire mountainside came down, right? So there's an entire section. They're talking about well over a year to repair that. I mean, this is something that is so big. Kamala can take her $750 and put it where the sun doesn't shine, because right now of a much more massive relief effort. And frankly, I hate to say this because it sounds like I'm crazy, but abutting this up to the most consequential election in our history that we are about to experience, it just smells bad. It tastes bad. It's the old thing. If it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's a duck, right? And we got a problem right now, Benny, and this government is intentionally doing nothing. They're doing nothing. So don't let anybody say that there's no money, and don't let anybody say that there's no resources. There are both, and they can be there in a moment's notice. We're already 8 days too late. And for the 82nd Airborne Division and 18th Airborne Corps at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, I guess now called Fort Liberty, for those resources to sit there, what? Are they waiting to go to the Ukraine? Are they waiting to go to the Middle East? Bullshit. We have got to get these resources, because that division, I can tell you, I've spent almost half of my career at that, in fact, more than half of my career at that base. Wow. In the world of special operations, in the world of really high-end capabilities. I mean, tonnage, clothing, food, logistics, bridging, trucks, air mobility. They have they have more than a brigade's worth of aviation assets. They have a totality of command and control capabilities. Just an ability to go up on, and I know some of the area up there, like there's some fairground areas, and then you have some off-site airfields where there's large open space where the space can be cleared immediately, just bulldoze. Because even the Army at Fort Bragg has bulldozers, has cranes, has all this complement of capabilities. All of that can be brought to bear. You clear up a couple of spaces, you start flying around there, you actually run it like we ran operations in any war zone in the country, because that's what this is. In fact, it's worse than a war zone. You've seen the pictures, you've shown the videos on your screen. We need to get up there with military resources, and we need to do it now. And I mean now. And I'm thankful to actually, because I think Ron DeSantis sent some bridging assets up there from the National Guard and from the State Guard, but certainly from the National Guard. Other governors need to start coming together, folks, because if Joe Biden, he is not there, okay? Joe Biden needs to be 25th Amendmented out. Kamala Harris, who has no concept of what I just said in the last 15 or 20 minutes, zero concept. But there are people in our government, and there's certainly people in the Department of Defense. Lloyd Austin should be ashamed of himself. As a Secretary of Defense, he knows full well what the U.S. military is very capable of doing, all complements, whether it's National Guard, whether it's our reserve forces, or whether it's our active duty. And right now, to put an active duty unit in there for, let's just say, 30 days, and then you can bring in, some of the other search and rescue, some of the other civilian capacity that we have in this country, right? So we know that there's people, and we'll get this. I'll get this information to you so you can put it out on your show, because there is a church up there that is setting up operations. It's a great church, great pastor. There's another couple of groups up there that I know that are bringing in truckloads of food and shelter and warm clothes. I mean, money, yes, will help pay for the fuel services. I know one of the guys that's up there, they brought 6 helicopters up, private. These are private guys who went up there. They normally get a phone call from FEMA. FEMA never called them. These guys are the top end search and rescue people, and FEMA calls them whenever there's a disaster. FEMA never called them. And so they're up there on their own because they just give a shit about what's going on. So they have about 6 helicopters, and they need to pay for fuel. The folks providing the fuel up there have given them fuel at half price, which is really, really nice. But that fuel will eventually run out. So we need to get, we need to pay to get fuel up there. If we continue down this path with trying to do this, by private citizens, and I'll shut up here in a second, Benny. It kind of harkens back to the retreat from Afghanistan, when we pulled out of Afghanistan, and the tragic loss of the beautiful 13 lives, so many others that were wounded, the leaving behind of American citizens, the government pulled out. And so what happened? I mean, there's still Americans back there, right? And so private citizens stepped up, and they started to conduct rescue operations in the most difficult part of the world. Now we're talking about right here in our own front yard. This isn't our backyard. This is our front yard, America. And we have the full capabilities, assets, resources, funding, all of it. And you know what? That's our money. Don't let anybody say, well, the government doesn't have any money. Bullshit. There is so much money that we can come get access to, and they can reallocate this. We're in a new fiscal year. I mean, these are things that I understand, and God help these people. If from my perspective, I ain't speaking for Trump, but from my perspective, God help these people if we get back into office, because this is insane. We can't have close to 2,000, and it's going to go north of 2,000 when we see it all, and the billions and billions and billions of dollars that are going to be just destroyed, and people's lives. I mean, everything. So sad. And we got to look back at these kinds of things and go, what do we do? Why? And I know why. I think there's an intentionality behind this. And I would love Joe Biden. He didn't even know that there's a storm. He didn't know which storm. I heard you ask Nick about, you said, what storm? He was like, which storm you're talking about? Are you shitting me? And I'm getting Irish on you here. I want to calm my voice a little bit, because we have American citizens that are at risk, that have died, that have lost every single thing that they own. We have the full ability in this country to take care of them right now for an immediate period of time. And I'm talking about probably for the next certainly 90 days, maybe longer. We can put them, up like we put illegals up, right, in hotels. I mean, we can bring them into, I know, these are all things that I know we are capable of doing. And the military can get in there immediately and start to put people in at least tents, on a fairground, and line it up like we've always done in places like overseas combat zones, where we get in there with CBs and we build plywood homes. We can bring in complements of trailers. So much can be done, and our government is on its rear end doing nothing, hoping what they're hoping for? They're hoping that it affects the election and the outcome of election, particularly in places like Georgia, like North Carolina, are affected so much. But I can't imagine, Nick highlighted it, trying to get people to be able to vote, right? That's the last thing that is on my mind for these people. I want Donald Trump to get back into office. Donald Trump has to have, an entire battalion of infantry around him to protect him from being killed by, frankly, some of it might be Iranians. Some of it's probably people in our own damn government working with Mexican cartels and working with other criminal elements to kill this man. So that's another discussion for another day. I know you wanted to talk about something that Jack Posobiec had posted, and I think Jack's right about that there's other plots afoot. And this is insane where we are as a nation, never mind what Mother Nature and our government, what Mother Nature did and what our government has failed to do. So I want people to, I will get to you places where people can give that I totally have vetted, totally trust. And frankly, yes, the organizations that are helping, they need the money, but the people need shelter. They need thermal sleeping bags. They need little until our government kicks in, until something kicks in. They need tonnage. They need clothing, warm clothing. They need preserved foods, right? Canned goods. All the kinds of things. So we're going to be up there in North Carolina here, in Selma here with a whole bunch of people. We've turned our entire Reawaken America event that we planned, months ago, into basically a humanitarian assistance relief effort. So we're going to be doing that, and then we're going to be in Charlotte, helping out Donald Trump with a big event. We're going to turn that into a humanitarian assistance relief effort. And personally, one of the things that I do very well, and for your audience, is I connect people and I connect organizations because I have a great network of really wonderful people. They're mostly former military, and these are hardworking, patriots, and they love. They know what a crisis. They know how to handle a crisis. So we're connecting different groups that I knew that were doing individual things. We have to be far more coordinated. So anytime that you see somebody, because you'll be talking to different organizations, Benny, the main thing that we need to do is we need to connect those guys. So I probably on the phone this morning have connected about 4 or 5 different organizations, people that didn't generally know each other, but they're all focused on the same, focal point. And that focal point right now is to get relief efforts up into North Carolina. So we've got trucks going up. We've got helicopters going in. We do have some funding coming in, kicking in, particularly for fuel, because the other thing is you need heaters, right? We need heaters. Heaters run on gas, propane, or they run on just MoGas. So those are the kinds of things. There's the corporate world of Home Depot, Lowe's, Walmart. All of these big box stores, right? If you're listening to this show, please, please, please kick in. Help those folks that are sitting on an airfield right now running. As of yesterday, a private organization was running air operations for the entire area because the government wasn't there. Okay, the government wasn't there. And I will put a plug in for Mark Robinson again, because I don't know if he listens to this show, but Mark, on one phone call, up at the Capitol in North Carolina, he immediately that afternoon was at the Hickory Airfield, and he got those forestry helicopters mobilized, and they're now flying rescue missions alongside this private organization, and which is nuts. We should have an entire division, an infantry division, mobilized for this effort, whether it comes out of the Guard or whether it comes out of a place like Fort Bragg, North Carolina. That's what we need right now, and they can set up everything, and that can be the focal point without any of the BS. You tell a 2-star general who's in charge of it, you say, you have the con, you make the decisions, get stuff done, make it happen, rescue people, help people. If you need more stuff, you come back and you ask me, and I'll bring to bear more stuff if you need it. But right now, we got to get those kinds of resources and capabilities out there. So, I've gone on and on. I'm just, your audience, you can hear it in my voice, folks. We have got to take this country back, because if we don't take this country back, what we're seeing right now in the responsiveness of our government, we're going to see it in spades. And if there was ever a time for them to shine, now's the time to shine. And these people have dark souls, and that's what we're seeing. So I'll shut up. Thank you, Benny.
This is exactly why you bring the general on your show, to get the orders from a military mastermind and from somebody who truly understands these systems. Now, General, I can't help but look through some of the archives of what happened in Katrina, what happened with Hurricane Sandy when it struck New York, and when these hurricanes hit dark blue cities and large Democrat voting pockets. Let's say this hurricane hit Philadelphia or Pittsburgh this election. Yeah. I can't help but wonder if the National Guard, the full fleet of the American military, would have been immediately dispatched along with every conceivable federal printing press to print unlimited money to help these people out. You can go back and see the 82nd Airborne deployed to Katrina.
Exactly.
You can go back and see the military deployed to New Jersey and New York when dark blue cities were hit by hurricanes. Yep. And so you have to step back and say, you know what? It sure as hell looks like this is some sort of political vengeance, political cleansing of Trump counties in swing states. That's what it looks like prima facie.
Yeah. So you're right. Katrina, we deployed Katrina, which happened down in New Orleans, and then and I just lost the name of the hurricane that hit Homestead Air Force Base in Florida, which was one of the worst disasters. It was a hurricane that hit. The 82nd Airborne was actually deployed down to Florida to do disaster and recovery and relief operations in Florida. And I'm not a big fan of Rumsfeld, and I said this the other day in a post that I put out, because I wanted people to understand exactly what you're asking. Rumsfeld, after Katrina, there was 75,000 soldiers that were deployed to New Orleans, right? To 75,000 immediately. He said, well, and this is a quote from a guy that was in the room with him that said, we'll worry about the paperwork later, get them deployed immediately. 75,000 were deployed, like literally in a period of about 4 days, to get them down there, right? And so, and believe me, I'm no fan of Rumsfeld, but when stuff needs to happen in this country, if we have leaders who care, and are willing to do the right thing, then we'll have responses like that. Where, like I just said, the hurricane that hit Florida, I think it was back in the early 90s, if I remember, 92, and forgive me for the name, but that they deployed the 82nd Airborne Division down there. They ended up sending about a battalion task force, which is about a complement of about 1,000 to 1,500, in addition to the National Guard that was deployed by Florida at the time. So I think the numbers that we're seeing right now of National Guard that are there, and I think they said 1,000 were deploying out of Fort Bragg, Fort Liberty, to go up into the hills of North Carolina. That's nothing. It's nothing compared to the scale and scope of what we're seeing. And we're already, like I said, we're 8 days too late. So I can't imagine what goes through the mind of somebody. I'm not an evil person, so I don't know what goes through the mind of an evil person. So I just leave it at that.
So if President Trump comes back to office, and I know we're tight on time here, General. If President Trump gets back to, I want to give people hope, because it's been a dark show. I want to give people hope and show the difference between America Last, which is what you were seeing at play here, and America First. And if Trump comes back into office, You have a position. You said wave a magic wand, but we can wave a magic wand. We can just elect the man back into office.
Yeah.
How do disasters like this get treated differently? Because there will be further disasters. I mean, this is just a fact of life.
Right.
What does America First policies look like in the future?
Yeah, I want people in your audience, I want your audience to think of their own home, right? Your own home. America is our home, and we must take care of our home first. If we're strong, if we are viable, if we feel like if you feel safe in your home, you feel protected in your home, you feel like in your community that your home is in, if somebody is going to respond in time of need, in an emergency, you dial 911 when you're at your home, and hopefully the cops are able to show up. Hopefully they haven't been, given DEI training. And so that's what I want Americans to feel like. In our home, we are safe, secure, protected. We have people that are thinking about us because they can't do anything without us. I mean, we always say the government's money. No, that's our money. Everything that happens in this country belongs to us. So this is our home. That's what America First means. It means that we are going to protect our home. We're going to do everything that we can to make sure that whether it's a disaster or whether it's the fentanyl drug problem, whether it's the illegals that we've got in this country, or whether it's a threat from overseas against our home, right? You got criminals that break into your house sometimes. We don't want that to happen. So we need to protect our country. That's what America First is about, just like it's our own damn home, because folks, it is, and we're paying for it. And then we can start to worry because we can juggle, we have enough smart people to juggle multiple balls so we can, worry about what's happening in Eastern Europe. We can worry about what's happening in the Middle East, and we can look at our foreign policy, which is a disaster right now, and start to, rein that in a little bit, like catching a fish, right? We got to rein some of this madness back in. We have good people that can do that kind of stuff, but we have to first make ourselves stronger. And one of the ways that we make ourselves stronger, and Trump has been all over this, energy, and I'll just talk about energy for a second, because it's like your own home, right? If there's a disaster, you buy a couple of extra cans of propane tanks so you can, make yourself a cup of coffee during or some food or whatever, or you buy something to take care of your home. We have energy in abundance in this country to take care of the rest of the world, frankly. We have so much energy in this country, and what that energy resource does, and I ain't just talking about fossil fuels or petro or nuclear, talk about all forms of energy. We have that right now. And if we put that into high gear, which was one of Trump's major issues, we can turn this country, we can turn the lights back on in America and be that shiny city on the hill that we know we can still be. But we got to have the right leaders. We got to have the right focus. And that's one big area that will immediately kick in. And once that kicks in, the second, third, fourth, fifth order effects of opening up the energy resources that this country has, it will start to grow and have an effect on all kinds of other industries for our country. And we need to get back into being a manufacturing stronghold in the United States, from the United States of America to the rest of the world. We can still do that, but we got to have the right leadership in the White House. And right now, we have no leadership.
General, thank you so much for your time. My team is telling me that we are at time that you've got another hit. I know you're a busy guy. Please, everyone, follow General Flynn here. Obviously, you probably already are. 1.7 million followers. Make sure that our movement grows. God bless you, General. We can't wait for you to be back in command.
Great. I'll send you some places, Benny, that you can give your folks, some ideas about how to help, because I know your audience is a great audience. Thank you. God bless.
Love that.
See ya.
God bless you. What a genius. You can see why they sabotaged that man and hoaxed him out of Trump's inner circle. What a genius. General Flynn is a true patriot from inside of the ranks of a military class that clearly are, much like everything else in this country, and are behaving currently as apparatchiks for the Democrat Party against the American people. Now, breaking news, ladies and gentlemen. FEMA whistleblowers, this broke while we were on air with General Flynn. FEMA whistleblowers have come forward alleging that the agency misappropriated funds in the wake of Helen withheld pre-disaster aid, that the first responders and service members have been waiting in hotels without deployment orders. Wow. This from Congressman Matt Gaetz. Yesterday, you stated that the Federal Emergency Agency, I'm reading to you here the note from the member of Congress, the Honorable Matt Gaetz, to Secretary Mayorkas. Yesterday, you stated that Federal Management Agency, FEMA, which is part of the department, does not have enough funds to make it through the hurricane season. This news comes after FEMA spent hundreds of millions of taxpayer dollars on migrants due to Kamala Harris's open borders are, prioritizing funding for Americans impacted by disasters instead of prioritizing funding for Americans impacted by disasters. My office has been in contact with whistleblowers in numerous emergency management functions in federal, state, and local levels, and they all point to the same critical mismanagement issues. FEMA has wasted taxpayer funds and misappropriated funds and left other federal, state, and local responders without deployment orders on the ground. As reported and further confirmed by my office, hundreds, if not thousands, of service members were deployed by the Department of Defense to North Carolina and have sat idle waiting for FEMA. We have confirmed that FEMA employees deployed on the clock awaiting orders in hotels. FEMA pre-disaster aid was withheld, exacerbating the emergency. Also, public NGOs have purchased airline tickets for migrants through the use of FEMA funds. How do we start off our show? We started off our show by saying FEMA has been turned into the emergency management for criminal aliens to come in here and to rig elections for Democrats. That's how we started off our show. FEMA has been bastardized into an election rigging machine for the Democrat Party. This is what FEMA stands for now, not for helping or assisting Americans. The aftermath of Hurricane Helene, major disaster, and your waste and unpreparedness and leave Americans in distress, unable to access food, water, or medicine, and expecting help with none incoming. Please provide the answer to the following questions to my office by October 11th, 2024. And he goes through the questions about the expenditures of disaster relief. Whoa. So there you go. Breaking news right now, ladies and gentlemen. I want to touch very briefly also on what the general brought up. Here's a report from local news. 8 illegal immigrants arrested for burglary after they loot homes of hurricane victims in Tennessee. You can see on video this happening. The aftermath of Hurricane Helene, which claimed hundreds of lives in western North Carolina. 8 illegal criminal aliens have been arrested for looting hurricane victims in eastern Tennessee. So there you go. All right. Do you have the article there? All right, boys. So, here you are. It's hard. It's hard to accept the reality that there is a severe portion of the federal government, Republican and Democrat, that is totally and completely aligned against the American citizenry here, who hate us because we ascribe to the vision of our founders of a American population that is not dependent on the federal government and that believes the federal government should be extremely limited in its power. They do not like those limitations, and therefore they attack us. They wish nothing short of death for Americans who stand in their way. And that's been shown again and again and again. If you are an inconsequential or inconvenient American, whether you live in Hawaii, in a dark blue state, in the small working class city of Lahaina, and your town is torched to the ground, or whether you live in dark red Appalachia, where Trump signs are everywhere and people wear MAGA hats on the front porch and play the banjo, your government despises you. They're despicable and cruel, wholly unethical, and have done nothing but attempt to destroy this country that they inherited. President Trump stands in their way, as do the rest of us. And so we hope that you take this opportunity to reinforce yourself and those around you to vote for President Trump, because it could be you next. It could be your house next. Where are the disaster maps? Put them up, please. Yeah, I saw you loading a bunch of disaster maps. The disaster areas, Klein. So where are they? Let's see them. No. The maps, my friend. Okay. Look at the millions that are affected in these disaster maps. There's my city right there. Keep going. Half of South Carolina. At least a quarter of North Carolina. And then many millions more in Georgia. And many millions more in Tennessee and some in Virginia. So these are tens of millions of Americans who live in these areas that are seeing now the obscene cruelty and indifference of our government. Are you next? You just heard what General Michael Flynn, one of the top advisors to President Trump in his first campaign and administration, would do in a disaster if this disaster were to befall you and your home. What are you going to do about it this election? Would you prefer that reaction or the reaction of Joe Biden yesterday, where he shrugged and said, "What storm?" as bodies are being pulled from the mud in this part of the world. Hundreds of them, if not thousands. Which America do you want? That's America last versus America first. Do you want your president to cruelly look you in the eye as your homestead is wiped off the earth? You have no internet, you have no cell phone, you have no electricity. And to tell you that if you truly need it, the federal government is willing to fork over $700. Here we go.
And the federal relief and assistance that we have been providing has included FEMA providing $750 for folks who need immediate needs being met.
If you really need it, we got $750 for you. That won't pay for rent. Not where I'm from. Not here. You can see here in Florida how we are broadcasting from one of the disaster zones. And I don't even remotely claim to say that we are suffering in any capacity that reaches the level of what happened in North Carolina. Not at scale. I do know people who lost their homes. I do know people who don't have electricity right now. But it's not at scale. Do you want that leadership? Kamala Harris, whimpering and whining days after the event, that if you really need it, you could potentially get $700? Boys, where's that resident that said she applied and no one's able to get it? Do we have that? Do we have that? It's all over my ex this morning. Okay. All right. Shame. Here's President Trump from earlier today, calling into a disaster zone with a personalized message. I want to show you the difference between America Last, Kamala Harris staging photographs, spending weeks at fundraisers instead of going to these areas. And then when she gets there, not even actually going to the disaster zone, but saying, if you truly need it, you'll get $700. President Trump going in the hours after the storm hit to give away relief and to visit with the victims, and then doing this morning.
And there's somebody who wanted to be here today. This would be the special guest that Ainsley's talking about. He wanted to be here, but he is busy campaigning. Ladies and gentlemen, here's Donald Trump with a message for Harry.
I'd like to ask everybody to pitch in and help save Harry and the natives. It's a special restaurant, very special place. People love it. It's been around a long time, like a really long time, but it's fallen prey to Kamala Harris and Joe Biden's economy. It hasn't been too good. And we're going to get out there and work with Steve Ducey, who loves the place. He absolutely loves it. He thinks it's one of the best, maybe the best. And he doesn't want to see it go, and neither do I. We have to keep the good ones open, especially when it comes to Florida. Florida is a very, very special place, and it's a very, very great restaurant. So, Harry and the natives, keep it going. We love it, and you're going to be around for a long time, I hope.
think?
Overwhelming.
Man's trying to keep his restaurant open inside of a disaster area. President Trump taking a moment, busiest man on earth, taking a moment, stopping his campaign and recording a video about this specific man in his specific restaurant and helping him. This is what America First looks like. President Trump on the ground talking about bringing Starlink to these areas. I will tell you this, Elon Musk has endorsed Donald Trump. We may be spending some time with Elon Musk, actually, in the coming days. We'll see. Much is happening very quickly right here. But even if Elon Musk had remained and was originally a Joe Biden, Obama-Biden supporters, he'd open about donating to Obama back in 2008, supporting Obama. I think that President Trump would still have embraced Starlink because he actually wants to help Americans. It really doesn't matter the politics when Americans are suffering. This is what America First looked like. Here's Donald Trump talking about Starlink.
Homes, hospitals, highways, and cars have been plunged underwater. Entire neighborhoods have been turned into lakes. Nobody's seen anything like it. And to every family that's been displaced here in Georgia and North Carolina, which has really been hit. We were going there also, and they don't have communication. They don't have anything right now. We're trying to. I just spoke to Elon. I'm getting him. We want to get Starlink hooked up because they have no communication whatsoever. And Elon will always come through. We know that. And so we're working on that, getting them hooked up. They asked me whether or not that would be possible. And we're going to try and get the Starlink in there as soon as possible because they have no communication. And throughout the region, our hearts are with you, and we are going to be with you as long as you need. It's called an hour of need. You're in our prayers, and we pray to God. And throughout the long weeks that lay ahead, you're going to have a lot of work, but the end result is it's going to be good. We just wish so many people weren't so badly hurt, and in many cases, sadly, no longer with us. We love you.
America First. America First versus America Last. Here's President Trump yesterday taking on America Last, speaking directly about FEMA. They stole the FEMA money. They stole it so they could give it to illegal criminal aliens who they want to vote in this election. Knocking it out of the park. Go.
If you want to see how sick and distorted Kamala Harris's priorities are, just consider FEMA. F-E-M-A. You know what that is, right? The Federal Emergency Management Agency. And you read about now all the time because there's nobody that's handled a hurricane or storm worse than what they're doing right now. Kamala spent all her FEMA money, billions of dollars, on housing for illegal migrants, many of whom should not be in our country, including $1 billion for gift cards for illegal aliens and putting them up in luxury hotels with a gift card to welcome them to America as our veterans are sleeping on the sidewalks below those hotels and they're being walked into luxury hotels. Now we have a horrific disaster in North Carolina, Georgia, South Carolina, Alabama, Tennessee, Florida, and Virginia. That's how big this hurricane was. And the Harris-Biden administration says they don't have any money. They've spent it all on, they spent all of their money. They have almost no money because they spent it all on illegal migrants. How would you like to be a veteran and you've been sleeping opposite the entrance to a luxury hotel and illegal migrants come in and they're going up and occupying the hotel? That's what's happening. They stole the FEMA money just like they stole it from a bank so they could give it to their illegal immigrants that they want to have vote for them this season. You know, they're trying to get them on the voters' roll. We cannot let that happen.
It's hard to understate the current moment that we're in as a country. Some things you have to step back and just hand on over to God and just say, you know, these are acts of God. And these massive storms, they are acts of God. They're not acts of climate change. Who controls the climate? God does control the climate, actually. So acts of God. God controls the fates of man. And this current disaster is a cruel, dark, and perfect opportunity to see the difference between America first and America last and what's actually at stake in this nation. It is a horrendously timed disaster for the regime. I think as this spirals out of control, that you are going to see the erosion of Kamala's support. I think you're going to see a tanking in the polls. I think we're going to cover this extensively for a very long period of time, because actually nothing demonstrates further or better or more, with more crystal clarity, ringing like a bell, the worldviews that are on the ballot this election cycle. If you vote for Kamala Harris, you vote against your fellow Americans. You must hate America. You must hate America. This is what loving America looks like, ladies and gentlemen. We've been on the ground. Here's just some footage. We can just play the B-roll. Corey Mills is a member of Congress here from Florida. Yeah, please. The new stuff, Klein. Thank you. Corey Mills is a member of Congress from here in Florida. And we've been making a documentary with him on the ground. There was a lot going on this week. And quite frankly, sometimes the best that you can do is add to the logistical roles. And so we have been delivering via helicopter and via plane, military size airplanes, real support for the people of North Carolina. We've been talking about this. We're not trying to bring plaudits upon ourselves or praise upon ourselves. The true credit belongs obviously to those who are going on the mission. But this is our footage and our cameras capturing what our team is doing as we airlift supplies. Let's go to the actual airlift, please. As we airlift supplies into tough locations, you can see here the actual delivery of goods to places in need. And so this is what you as a community, if you're outraged or angry about this is what you as a community have been helping out with. No. You were just about to cover it in the B-roll. You need to show the actual delivery. Yeah, there we go. All right. So we've been doing it. We've been telling you we've been doing it, and we're going to keep doing it. And we're going to keep covering this. We'll link up with Corey Mills tomorrow. And we're going to be going to Butler tomorrow. There's too much at stake in this country. And so we're going to be going to Butler, Pennsylvania to cover the Trump rally tomorrow. And we're going to be linking up with those who are directly involved in the service of this area and see how further we can help. More on that to come as we finalize our plans. But what you do as a program and in this show, by watching, by subscribing, is you give us the capacity to do that. This is like a real world action that you can take that gives us the capacity to do this. This is our footage. This is from our cameras. And this is us going into the hardest to reach areas and helping and evacuating people. And so this show has been physically evacuating people and physically delivering goods. So we just say thank you. We say thank you for giving us the capacity to do this. Thank you for giving us the option to do this. And we are helping out together. More to come. In God we trust. Exactly. Tomorrow in Butler, Pennsylvania, we'll be with Eric Trump and Laura Trump, along with Elon Musk, J.D. Vance, and the president. We'll be bringing you live coverage. Here's what the president's son, Eric Trump, has had to say. His wife is a native daughter of North Carolina, and they've been on the ground as well. The Trump children, has anyone from Kamala's family, any of her stepchildren, she didn't have any kids of her own, but any of her stepchildren or anybody like from Doug Emhoff, wife abusing, wife beating, girlfriend beating, nanny impregnating Doug Emhoff? Have they been on the ground? Has anybody seen any of them? The Trump kids have been on the ground helping out. Here's Eric Trump yesterday.
Sean, right now there are 157 hotels in New York City that are completely full of illegal immigrants. Let me just repeat that number. 150 hotels in New York City that are completely full of illegal immigrants. New York City alone spends over $1 billion a year on illegal immigrants. And then you see these pictures of husbands and wives and children who have lost everything. Their homes have floated down rivers. Their homes have been taken out by mudslides. Their vehicles are gone. Their picture albums are destroyed. Every sentimental value that they could ever possibly imagine is gone. You know, will never be brought back. And what does Kamala do? She comes out and offers $750. $750. The TV in the person's house costs more than $750, and you see the absolute destruction. Sean, of all the political things that I've seen in the last decade, this is the one that bothers me the most. Hands down, by far. We have spent $200 billion sending money over to Ukraine and Russia to see young, innocent 21-year-old kids in dirty trenches pop around corners and shoot each other in the face with AK-47s. You watch these videos on YouTube, the lives are expunged in a matter of seconds. $200 billion America has sent over there. Yet we can't take care of our own in Georgia and North Carolina and Virginia. In Florida, $750. We send billions to places like Pakistan. And they won't tell us that bin Laden is literally living next to their equivalent of West Point. Yet we offer devastated families, the very people you're showing on the screen right now, we offer devastated families $750. Sean, this is the worst administration in the history of the country. These aren't serious people. Frankly, I think they're cruel people. The way they put Americans last is absolutely cruel. And I hope every single person going to the polls on November 5th and before in early voting will remember exactly who these people are.
Oh, hell yes. Yes. Let's look at those polls very quickly here, ladies and gentlemen. Polling. Trump saw a September surge in 5 crucial swing states. Ladies and gentlemen, here we go, rocking and rolling. President Trump is on the march. Donald Trump surged in 5 of 7 key battleground states where the election will be decided. Over the course of September, the averages monitored by 538, which is a left-wing site, shows that he gained ground on Kamala Harris in Georgia, Arizona, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, and North Carolina. There was no change in Nevada, which is very bad. Kamala Harris campaigned this week with the Cheney family. Green Day is now on the same side as Dick Cheney. I look forward to Green Day. I look forward to Billy Joel Armstrong of Green Day going out and singing American Idiot, featuring Dick Cheney playing the heart palpitator, right? Or whatever musical instrument you could possibly play. If you're Dick Cheney. Yeah, I look forward to that collab. This is going to be really, really fun. Electoral college favorite. Let's have a look. Breaking. President Donald Trump is the clear favorite to win the 2024 Electoral College under CNN's new national poll update, with the odds of winning at nearly 70%. Holy smokes. Look at Donald Trump nearly pulling in the popular vote now. Populism is popular. There is a massive movement towards Trump right now. We see it every single day that we go out into the streets. Yesterday, we told you that we would be going out and trying to buy gas for people. We are in what could be considered a disaster zone here in Florida. Let me put the map back up. But we were actually stopped. We need to find a different gas station. Let's just say we were stopped and we need to find a different gas station. So we'll just leave it at that. But that content soon to come. Content from Butler, Pennsylvania, soon to come. Tomorrow, we will be in Butler, Pennsylvania. Unless something catastrophic happens with our logistics. It is a tough place to get to. But we will be in Butler, Pennsylvania, bringing you content live, bringing you the rally live, and then also being there live. So if you're intending on going to Butler, hit us up. More to come on that. More to come on what we're going to do, but expect that. We think this is a historic moment. We're not going to miss it. Not going to miss it. We have an obligation to you. Lock in with your Patriot mobile device. When we travel, we bring Patriot Mobile with us. Make sure that you are rightly connected. If you are on your Patriot Mobile device in one of these hurricane-affected areas, you may need a Starlink, but nonetheless, it's going to work. It's solid, and it's on-the-ground coverage that we use every single day, every single trip that we take. And we go to some very obscure places on this program. We travel often. We'll probably be traveling like through the entire election. There's too much at stake. And we feel that energy, ladies and gentlemen. I got kids, man. I got kids. I got 3 kids and another one on the way. And so we're locking in. Make sure that we do everything. Hey, Grandpa, like, why did America get saved? Well, because when we were young men, we did everything we could to save it. I hope to tell my grandkids that someday, ladies and gentlemen, if they're sitting on my lap or if they're calling me on the phone. And if they're calling me, they're probably using a Patriot Mobile device. Go to patriotmobile.com/Benny. Call 972-PATRIOT right now. Get a free month. Use the offer code Benny. patriotmobile.com/Benny. Call 972-PATRIOT. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Elon Musk says he'll be at the Butler rally. Less than 3 months removed from the presidential assassination. So Donald Trump, it's been less than 90 days since Donald Trump ate a bullet in Butler. And he's going back, baby. And it's going to be awesome. We very much look forward to being there. Will we be able to chill with Elon Musk? You know what? It's 2024. Everything is possible. Everything is possible. Elon Musk is the man. Elon Musk is someone who actually puts his money where his mouth is and believes in something. He believes in free speech. He believes in a country with borders. He believes in preserving actual democracy in this place, not the fake democracy, which is when they say my democracy, our democracy, what they actually mean is my power, our authoritarian power. Not letting people choose between different ideologies that have made their cases. They mean taking away choice. That's what they mean by my democracy. It's demonic. I say it's demonic because Satan is the author of all lies, steal, kill, and destroy. And a satanic way to do something would be to present to you the opposite. Here, eat of the garden of good and evil. It'll bring you knowledge. No, it'll bring you doom. Eat the fruit. It will help your life. No, it will hurt you. A demonic offering is something that is the opposite of what someone's saying. When they say protect democracy, what that means is protect authoritarian power for a single party rule. As we destroy this place, Elon Musk stands against that. God bless him. Elon Musk backed PAC, Turning Point, combine operations for Trump in Wisconsin. Ooh, baby. Turning Point Action and America PAC, the pro-Donald Trump group funded by billionaire Elon Musk, is joining forces in Wisconsin. Musk's group is now taking the lead there in the final stretch of the election. Hundreds of ballot chasers that have been hired by Turning Point this week are combining with America PAC's operation in Wisconsin, according to the people, with knowledge and arrangement, granted anonymity to speak freely. America PAC, which has deep pockets but began its hiring staff and deployment later in the cycle than Turning Point, will be assuming a leadership role in the joint effort, including training Turning Point staff to use its data, making operational decisions, and paying for the costs of staff in Wisconsin, one person said. 2 organizations are among the outside groups that are helping carry out Republicans Get Out the Vote effort in battleground states, a group ground game presence that some GOP operatives have bemoaned as insufficient, with the Trump campaign largely relying on volunteers to mobilize voters. Tyler Boyer, chief operating officer at Turning Point Action, announced the news to Wisconsin field staff in a meeting Tuesday in Washika. According to the different people who were in the room, not authorized to speak publicly about the meeting, the announcement was well received by staff, of course. The person said that Turning Point employees are now undergoing training with America PAC. I want one of our MAGA hats. Have Eric bring me a MAGA hat. Let's go. Have Eric bring me a MAGA. We have hundreds of MAGA hats that also have the Turning Point logo on them. Turning Point Action. Our dear friends there. We know Tyler very, very well. Also, ladies and gentlemen, some footage of some various Turning Point events. I mean, these are, I'm not sure if we have. Let's go, baby. Let's go. Thank you, Eric. Eric still has the purple hair. Eric, come here. Yeah. Eric still has the, look at this. Eric still got the purple hair when he played a live at the DNC convention. Look at that. Maybe it's Eric who needs the MAGA hat on. Yeah, baby. Here we go. You got it one side? You got the other. It's got the turning point. These are the hats that you see all over college campuses. Do we have footage of that? Let's go, baby. We got that footage of like hundreds of students, thousands, of course, thousands and thousands across the country, signing up and registering to vote. This is how you win. Kamala's worst nightmare, man. Turning Point doing God's work. Charlie Kirk, obviously. Here's just one event. This is just from yesterday. You can replicate this in swing states throughout the country. Hundreds of thousands of new voter registrants. Young men, get out and vote. Young men, you got to get out and vote, boys. Problem is that young men, they love Trump. Trump's got the frat vote, but those men don't actually vote. So if you watch UFC, if you care about the octagon, if you care about fighting for your country, actually go out and do something about it. Damn it. The red hat stays on. You can see why I don't wear hats. I don't normally wear hats. We were making a huge exception here. This is the get out the vote effort that now Elon Musk is locked in on with his path. You don't hate our corporate press enough. You don't hate our ruling class enough, and you don't love Elon Musk enough or Turning Point Action enough. Ladies and gentlemen, this is why we support our friends. This is what actual energy looks like. Look at this. Ravenous. Young people registering to vote, putting on MAGA hats. You ever seen anything like this for Kamala? No, of course not. No, of course not. To get something this energetic for Kamala Harris, you'd have to go down to Caracas, to the airport in the dark of night, where they're not handing out MAGA hats to save America. They're handing out welfare cards for criminal aliens to come in here and loot and plunder this place. No. It's very different. These movements are very, very different. So God bless Elon Musk partnering with awesome organization, Turning Point. Andrew Colbert, a spokesperson for Turning Point, said that the America PAC is taking over many of the organization's expenses in Wisconsin. Turning Point Action will now redirect resources towards its existing field programs in Arizona. Whew, man. Wouldn't it be nice if American billionaires, many of whom are actually on our side, got smart with their money, stop squandering it and lighting it on fire? You know, like George Soros has maybe 1% of the wealth that Elon Musk has, and a teeny fraction of the wealth that many center-right American billionaires have. And if there was just organization and structure, that we could crush the left in virtually every state in America. If there was actually organization and thoughtfulness like the left puts into these systems, it'd be over. We've always known bodies in the field equals ballots in the box, Colvett said in a statement to Politico. The partnership will be a major lift to our efforts to ensure the ballot chasers are able to maximize their impact in Wisconsin. Nice. The partnership is not only good for Wisconsin, but also allows Turning Point Action to double down in Arizona. Here we go. We can hire more staff and train more volunteers. Those videos we just showed you are from Arizona. This is a win-win. Whew, baby. Elon Musk jumping into the arena. Very excited about it. Very excited, hopefully, to chill with the great Elon tomorrow. We'll see. Ask Benny anything. We have a stinger now? Exciting. Let's try it. That's good. Crisp and clean. Here we go. How do I join the Bennett Brigade? Explain. They are already a member. Explain the difference between memberships and brigade. So memberships on YouTube are offered on YouTube. I believe there's also a version on Rumble. Production team, can you make sure that I get that? There's Rumble Rants, right? There's a version on Rumble as well. We love our audience on Rumble. We love all of you, no matter where you watch. We have people watching on Instagram. It was just we had thousands and thousands of people watching the vice presidential debate on Instagram. It's awesome. So we heart you, no matter where you watch. How do I join the Benning Brigade? You go to BennyJohnson.com, and in the corner, BennyJohnson.com, put it up on screen right here. You'll be able to see join the brigade right up at the top there. Join. Bam. Then you join. It's the cost of a Chick-fil-A, small Chick-fil-A waffle fry per month, and you support our work. Some people got different reasons to do different things, and they want to join memberships on YouTube. YouTube has a robust membership operation. In the YouTube memberships, we're allowed, and the chat goes wild on all social media, and we love you in the chat. We love you in the chat. We wish that other social media platforms gave us the opportunity to do this. And the YouTube membership, can we pop that up? Pop up YouTube membership. YouTube memberships allow us to do specialized custom avatars and specialized custom emojis for the chat, like the fight emoji, right? So you can see join this channel and you get these special customized emoji. Could I get some fight emojis in the chat? What do we think about that, chat? What do we think about that, chat? So this is the difference. Yeah, right. I don't own YouTube or control it. I wish I did. Come on, YouTube, just hand over the keys. But if I did, right, like, you know, it would all be different. But here's the deal. And let's put that up. Thank you very much for our members on YouTube. Some people would prefer to just join via the platform or support us on the platform. And the platform encourages this as an ability for us to provide other services for our audience. So these are the differences between members on YouTube and the brigade. If other platforms that you're watching on allow us to do these other cool things for you, we'll immediately, uniquely make these opportunities for you. If you wish to just universally support us, though, the Benny Brigade, on our website, bennyjohnson.com. God bless you and thank you. If Joe Biden's economy has been atrocious for you, I have spent virtually my entire life, dead broke. And I understand that. You watching and sharing our show is, quite frankly, such a blessing to us. And so I deeply feel that. And quite frankly, you know, at this point, I would say if you have anything left over extra, we'll take all the super chats from this show and we'll take all the super chats from the week. We're donating it to the people in North Carolina. That's what we're doing. Right. And so thank you. If you're doing chats, whatever you're doing to support us, we make sure that we give it back. We're going to do a ton of charity work near the end of the year. We like doing that around Christmas time to bless people. Bud Gardner says, do you think Susan Rice was ticked that she got shut out from a chance of getting the presidential nomination? Susan Rice, interesting. I don't know. This is the old-time Obama advisor, so kind of the architect behind so much of the dark, dirty tricks that went on and are still going on. Susan Rice is somebody that General Milley, in the lead up to January 6th, was continually huddling with. So she's a dark arts master. I've never seen Susan Rice's name on a ballot. So I've never seen her run for office. And you'd assume that she would have to like put her name up for office and for running before she would want to toss her hat in to the presidency. So Bud, that's what I would expect. If Susan Rice wants to run for office, I would expect her to like toss her name for a Senate seat or House seat, do a cycle there, just like Obama did, and then make the jump. Sam Brin, thank you for the question, Bud. Sam Brin says, don't you think best campaign ads he could run down the home stretch would be a compilation of MSNBC and CNN having to tell the truth about how the monthly job reports, which were always awesome, and low unemployment rates? Yeah, but they won't. So it's our job. I can tell you before we got run off at a gas station yesterday, they ran us off because we created a parking lot. So we're just going to have to like think through our operations here. We're going to have to produce this a little better. It's a parking lot. We put up, do we have the sign? We put up a Trump gas sign. We were probably operational for like 5 minutes. And do you know what happened in those 5 minutes? We had so many cars that we created like effectively like an inoperable city street with total gridlock in every direction for 5 minutes of Trump gas prices. 5 minutes. This is going to be our way, Sam, to tell people, to show people what life was like. Sometimes you just have to say, F it, we'll do it live. Right? Sometimes you just have to say, F it, we're going to do it live, we're going to do it ourselves. And that's what we did yesterday. The problem was there was chaos that was created. And the entire place became inoperable. And out of respect for the people who own the gas station, we had to decamp very quickly before we had like a full video and a full operation. So we are going to go back and do this again, potentially next week. at a in a location that's not going to be as congested. We couldn't believe it. In literally 5 minutes, we had a parking lot with that gas price. So that's what we did. We have some funny footage anyway. You wouldn't believe it. I mean, we had funny footage anyway. It's amazing. Everybody who stopped in and said they're voting Trump were young black men pulling their cars up, getting tanks of gas, putting on a giant Donald Trump gold chain because Forgiato was with us, putting on a MAGA hat and saying, "Bring back Trump." Yeah, this content's going to be gold. We just need to not shut down the city when we do it. We're not trying to hurt businesses. You know what I mean? We're trying to help businesses. So get ready for that. That's going to be a really, really fun. But that's how we do it, Sam. We'll do it ourselves. You know what? We'll do it ourselves. Ladies and gentlemen, this is, very patriotic, quite frankly. We'll do it ourselves. It's like, that's what America was built on. Screw it. We'll do it ourselves. We're just going to go. We're just going to go. We're going to be there. We're going to do what's right. And we're going to let God sort it out. Be anxious for nothing, the scriptures say. So we are not anxious about this election. These are the things that God is in control of. So let's go win. But let's do our part. Let's go win. We'll see you live this weekend. It's going to be a wild weekend. And we thank you for your super chats. We thank you for, here's a, just want to put this up, a $200 super chat from Lady Locust, my mountain home. Our hearts and prayers are with you all. May God bless us all. This is going to be us. It's going to be us helping each other as Americans. And this is how we're going to win. We're going to save this country. This is how we do it. Ladies and gentlemen, marching alongside you, it's your boy Benny. Verse of the day, 1 Peter. Each of you should use whatever gift you have received to serve others as faithful stewards of God's grace in various forms. So this is the gift that we have. We have a capacity. We have a little bit of a microphone here. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to use it to serve others. And then we're going to let God sort it all out. March with us, ladies and gentlemen, in our mission. Stand upright, be upstanding, and never forget that God's got us, man. You don't have to worry. Be anxious for nothing, but in everything, prayer and supplication and thanksgiving, turn everything over to God. And the peace of the Lord that surpasses all understanding will protect your heart, soul, and mind. And that's where we are right now. So march with us at the end of the weekend, and this is the greatest country on earth. It's your boy Benny. See ya.
The biggest ships in the sea, all owned by the oldest kings, and their dying legacy, media deal reads. Soon will the Benny Show come to mind, the salt from lives for fun. Leave the gold and bring the gun, we sail for #1. Show come to mind, the salt from lives for fun. Leave the gold and bring the gun, we sail for #1. The biggest ships in the sea, all owned by the oldest king.